nicer. You've never used them before.
Back in 2006, the film The Wicker Man was released, starring Nicolas Cage and Ellen Burstyn. The story is about a policeman who, after a traumatic and rather mysterious experience, is summoned to a remote island in the Pacific Northwest called Summer's Isle to search for a supposed missing child. Once he arrives, he realizes that behavior on the island is odd, and the suspense unfolds. The island is a farming commune run by women in a matriarchal system that venerate the goddess. Men are subservient, and the commune engages in pagan nature worship, which includes a number of rituals and rites for fertility and success for their crops. They subsist by exporting their organic honey to the mainland. Bees and honey are an interesting choice, as it's a Freemasonic symbol, giving a nod to whom this message might be coming from. The Encyclopedia of Freemasonry provides many references to the bee, with honey being used to illustrate moral teachings. The Masonic initiate is instructed to go to the bee and learn how diligent she is, and what a noble work she produces, whose labor kings and private men use for their health. She is desired and honored by all, and though weak in strength, yet since she values wisdom, she prevails. Manly P. Hall, occultist, self-proclaimed mystic, and Freemason, from his book The Secret Teachings of All Ages, writes, "The beehive is found in Masonry as a reminder that in diligence and labor for a common good, true happiness and prosperity are found. The bee is a symbol of wisdom, for as this tiny insect collects pollen from the flowers, so men may extract wisdom from the experiences of daily life. The bee is sacred to the goddess Venus, and, according to mystics, it is one of several forms of life which came to the earth from the planet Venus millions of years ago. The fact that bees are ruled by queens is one reason why this insect is considered a sacred feminine symbol." Oliver Day Street, attorney, politician, and Freemason, in his book Symbolism of the Three Degrees, writes, "To the operative Mason, could anything be more important than industry? By it he lives, and by it were reared those dreams of architectural beauty which excite our wonder and please our fancy. A place of great industry we call a hive. No symbol of labor could be more appropriate than a beehive." Asserting what he believes is his authority as an officer of law and order, he presents himself to conduct his search. He takes lodging and begins to do some detective work. With each investigative effort, he is told a number of mixed messages, and through deception and trickery, he grows confused and agitated. The women, particularly the elder or crones, rather acerbically are making him into a fool, which is an important symbol for this storyline. The story involves 3 generations of women: the maiden, the mother, and the elder crone. The triple goddess, 3 aspects of one deity symbolizing the 3 seasons of the female life cycle. She is essentially one deity, sometimes referred to as the mother goddess. Incidentally, the triple goddess's consort is the horned god Cernunnos from Celtic, or Pan from Greek paganism, and sometimes called the Green Man. He is the male aspect of this deity and is always represented not only with horns or antlers, but also as a hybrid of both man and animal. While searching to and fro all over the island and growing increasingly distressed, he takes the bear costume of Sister Beach, a hint offered at the start of the film, joins the pageantry as they parade through the honeycomb with the others in ritual procession as he unknowingly makes his appointment with the Wicker Man. In Norse mythology, the bear, considered the most powerful and ferocious animal of them all, is a symbol for prominent Nordic god Odin, but it is also a symbol for strength and masculinity. In Norse mythology, the bear is the ultimate symbol for manliness. so it seems fitting that our officer of law and order would be sacrificed in the bearskin to effectively represent the utter failure of his manhood. Other points of interest throughout the film, Lily Sobieski's character appears in each scene holding a significant prop. In one scene, she appears with a broomstick, a nod to a witch. In the next, she holds an axe, or a labrys. The labrys is a ritual axe that is one of their holiest religious symbols and is connected to the mother goddess, representative of its authority. The labrys, which root word comes from the Latin word labia, or the part of the female genitalia that is the entrance to the womb. The labrys is also a symbol of the labyrinth, representing human consciousness. A circle and a spiral, this symbol is most certainly not a maze. It has only one path that leads one on a journey to the center of one's deepest self, and back out into the world with greater understanding of who they are. In another scene, she is seen biting an apple, perhaps another nod to witchery, or even to Eve, the first mother, who took the bite of the forbidden fruit. In Luciferianism, the bite was the gateway to enlightenment, as Lucifer was the light-bearer, or the rebel angel who brought to humanity the gift of intellect, knowledge, and a path to their own godlike status. Nick Cage's character is named Edward Malus, Edward meaning prosperous or wealthy, and also protector or guard. Malus means apple, so essentially his name means rich guard of the apple, a nod perhaps to Adam. On the door of the schoolhouse is a symbol of a serpent coiled around an egg, the Orphic egg or cosmic egg, coming from the Orphic reformation of the Dionysian mythos of ancient Greece. The myth revolves around the suffering and death of the god Dionysus at the hands of the Titans, of which Zeus strikes the Titans in retribution, turning them to ash, and from these ashes humanity is born. In Orphism, a parallel to Pythagoreanism, humanity is described as having a dual nature, the physical body and the divine spark or soul. Orphics believed that, after death, they would spend eternity with Orpheus and other heroes. The uninitiated, however, would be destined to indefinite reincarnation. The Orphic egg, or solar egg to the ancient Egyptians, is the cosmic egg that hatched the primordial hermaphroditic deity, Phanes or Protogenes, also equated to Zeus, Pan, and Eros, who in turn created other gods. The idea of the symbol is that of a new creation, a new man, one illumined with the divinity and knowledge of the ancient mysteries. On the blackboard is an excerpt of a poem by Theosophist and Luciferian William Blake titled The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, the Argument. Once meek and in a perilous path, the just man kept his course along the vale of death. Roses are planted where thorns grow, and on the barren heath sing the honeybees. The poem is an argument between an angry, frustrated character named Rintrah and the part of humanity he calls the just man. He rages as the just man keeps walking along a path toward death. The villain, however, chooses to walk a more dangerous path. In doing so, he pushes the just man into desolation, and once there, the just man begins to rage. With this, a new heaven is beginning, a brand new start. The idea being that being good means passively obeying, which leads to desolation and annihilation, while being evil means being energetically creative and bringing forth a new creation, and the entrance of the new Adam to Utopia. Words Blake inscribes as being spoken by the devil himself. Notorious theosophists, occultists, and counterculturalists have interpreted this poem as speaking of socialist revolution and the emerging utopia once it comes to fruition, a transformation that can only come if one rejects God and takes the path of the evil one. William Blake's philosophies were deeply rooted in the Orphic and Pythagorean traditions, Neoplatonism, Hermeticism, Kabbalah, and Gnosticism. The argument kind of reminds me of David Bowie's song and video Black Star, released in January of 2016, just days before he died. The lyrics appear to be a similar exchange between either man and serpent or serpent and God. The video is rich with Luciferian symbols, in particular a specific sect of Luciferianism known as the Cult of the Black Sun.
Last aspect of occultism I want to touch on is dark occultism. I'm not going to belabor this too long. I just want to really talk about who are these people that I refer to as the dark occultists. You can call them a million different names, folks. Doesn't matter what you call them. You can call them sorcerers. You can call them dark Luciferians, those who have the light and use it for dark purposes. They are Satanists, okay? They are Setians. They are the Qlipotic Kabbalists. Qlipoth is the region below the tree of life that is the hell world in the Kabbalistic tradition, that is the inversion of all the true teachings of Kabbalah, of the true moral lessons of the true tradition, esoteric tradition of Kabbalah. If you descend into the Qlipotic realms, it's the wastelands, the lands of the spent and corrupted souls that are simply husks. They used to be souls and spirits that are just like, withered out husks, the wastelands, in other words. That's Qlipotic Kabbalah. They are the dark masons of the world. They are the dark Atonists. Aton was a variation of the sun or the light in the ancient Cometian tradition. Ultimately, it's all one cult, folks. It's the cult of the black sun. You can call them by any name you want, but they are a dark solar cult. Okay? When I say the dark sun, why the black or the dark sun? The sun represents light. It represents knowledge. It represents empowerment. It represents life. The antithesis of that, the total polar inversion of that, is it's still a form of light. It's still the sun, but it has darkness within it. So it's knowledge being used for all the wrong reasons. Knowledge being used to control, not enlighten, not uplift. Knowledge being used to put people in a prison. Knowledge being used to being used as a power differential over people who are still in a level of ignorance. So you're blinding people with that light, and you're enslaving them with it, with that knowledge. That's what these people are. Okay? If you don't even want to look at it in esoteric terms, they're people with the knowledge of how the self works, meaning deep psychology, very ancient, deep knowledge of psychology, combined with people who know about how the laws of nature function, which is very deep, hidden science.
The black sun representing using that knowledge for what Luciferians believe is a necessary evil, much like what William Blake describes as the perilous path of which the hero-villain will walk, driving the just man into desolation, so the serpent can roam free. What's interesting about the video is that the skull is jeweled, which will be part of a ritual as the video progresses onward. The jeweled skull reminds me of Ezekiel chapter 28, verses 13 through 14, where God speaks through the prophet to Satan, who has either possessed the king of Tyre or is clearly working through him. The verses read as follows: You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every kind of precious stone adorned you: ruby, topaz, and diamond, beryl, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and emerald. Your mountings and settings were crafted in gold, prepared on the day of your creation. You were anointed as a guardian cherub, for I had ordained you. You were on the holy mountain of God. You walked among the fiery stones. From the day you were created, you were blameless in your ways, until wickedness was found in you. There is no human king who was an anointed cherub in Eden or stood on the holy mountain of God. Bowie, who is playing some sort of blind guide, appears to be speaking in the first 4 verses, paying homage to the solitary source of light in the Villa of Orman, which means House of the Serpent. The day of execution, to me, speaks of Christ's death on the cross. Only women kneel and smile, and at the center of it all, the serpent's eyes are watching. The next verse speaks of, on the day he died, spirit rose a meter, then stepped aside. Somebody else took his place and bravely cried, I'm a black star. In Luciferianism, the belief is that Lucifer will take Christ's place, just move right in there and be the world's new Messiah. The next verse makes it clear with a nod to a fallen angel who dared to trod on sacred ground. Luciferians believe Satan was the villain hero who got unjustly punished for bringing intellect to primitive man, so look at it through that lens. The next verse seems to be God talking to man, and it's in a very mocking tone, portraying God as some sinister tyrant who wants to trap people into going with him. You're a flash in the pan, I'm the great I am. Then back to Lucifer again, playing the honest, open-hearted, unsung hero. And further into the video, we see a ritual with women venerating the skull of Lucifer. A point of interest and a nod to the cult of the Black Sun is that the women move counterclockwise, or widdershins, in the circle. Moving widdershins, meaning to walk against, is a binding and banishing spell. If clockwise, or diasil, means moving with the sun, or the holy round, widdershins refers to walking against the sun and generally represents the unnatural and negative. It's for the casting of a black magic spell or curse. Bowie incorporates a very blasphemous message portraying Christ as a dirty, perverted, and tattered straw man gyrating upon the cross. And for a bonus, these women seem to have conjured some kind of creature that looks like something from the mind of H.P. Lovecraft. In the 2006 version of The Wicker Man with Nicolas Cage, the message is to smash the patriarchy through pagan witchcraft and eugenics, create a pure bloodline of dominant females schooled only in the magic arts who refuse to return to quote-unquote normal society. But the original film tells a very different tale. Based on the book Ritual by British actor and author David Pinner, first published in 1967, the story is about an English police officer, a puritanical Christian, who is asked to investigate the possible murder of a child from a reclusive farming commune on a remote Scottish island called Summerisle. The film, retitled The Wicker Man, released at the height of the counterculture in 1973, opens with the police officer exercising his authority to visit Summerisle and begin his investigation. On his first night there, the landlord of the inn presents his daughter, who attempts with seductive dance and song to lure him to her bed. He fights the temptation and explains in the morning that he's not only engaged to be married, but doesn't believe in sex before marriage.
I'm engaged, madam.
Does that stop it?
It's nothing personal, just I don't believe in it before marriage.
The story ensues in much the same way as the newer version, except in the original, the Isle is headed by a man, Lord Summerisle. In a pivotal scene, he explains how their community came to be. He explains that in 1868, his grandfather, a distinguished Victorian scientist, agronomist, and free thinker, bought the island for the purpose of growing several strains of genetically modified fruits and vegetables that he had already developed.
You see, his experiments led to the belief that it was possible to induce here the successful growth of certain new strains of fruit that he had developed. The best way of accomplishing this, it seemed to him, was to rouse the people from their apathy by giving them back their joyous old gardens. And as a result of this worship, Barren Island would burgeon and bring forth fruit in great abundance.
Is Lord Summerisle saying that a strategy, which incorporated an ancient pagan worldview, would ensure devoted laborers for their scientific experiment? Is he hinting that their former apathy was caused by Christianity? It's never explained what happened exactly that caused the ministers and church to abandon the island.
My father continued out of love. He broke me out the same way, to reverence the music and the drama and the rituals of the old gods, to love nature and to please it when necessary.
A generational move further away from God. Interesting. The policeman replies,
He brought you up to be a pagan. A heathen, conceivably, that not I hope I'm enlightened one.
The story resolves in much the same way as the newer version, with the policeman being led to and fro by lies, mixed messages, and trickery until it's time for him to make his appointment with the Wicker Man. The difference in this version is that the policeman is dressed not as a bear, but as the fool, as he was made into a fool through this entire process. The fool represents 1/3 part of the triune pagan godhead. He is the court jester and yet king for a day, representing the duality of man. He is the comedy and the tragedy. The fool in himself has 3 aspects that overlap with the horned god and mother goddess. The first aspect is that of the Prometheus, who brings knowledge and creativity to mankind. He is the culture hero, who serves as a savior to mankind. The second aspect is the clown, the geeky nerd, the jerk, who teaches lessons by his own innocent buffoonery. The third aspect is the darker side, representing the psychopath, the petulant child, the narcissist. He is chaos. He is the devil or Satan. This aspect of the fool is closely represented by the Joker in the Batman story, and brilliantly portrayed by Joaquin Phoenix in its newest rendition of the character. When it is his time, the policeman, who, remember, represents law and order, represents the puritanical Christian, living obediently as biblically ordained, is brought to his appointment dressed as Satan himself. Much like the bear being the ultimate irony for masculinity in the newer version, such is so for the policeman in the original. He makes his divine appointment with the Wicker Man to bring death and annihilation to Christianity itself.
So it's important that each new generation born somehow to make aware that here the old gods aren't dead. And what if the true God, he's dead, he had his chance and he loved the parts of it.
At the time of his sacrifice, his full costume is removed. He is ceremonially washed and placed in a white robe. The crops have failed, but not because of grandfather's error with his genetic experiments, of course. Lord Summerisle believes, or at least this is what he teaches his folk, that the best way to prevent this from happening again is to offer a human sacrifice to their sun god and goddess of the orchards. He explains that animals are acceptable, but only limited in their power. The little child is even better, but not nearly as effective as the right kind of adult.
No matter what you do, you can't change the fact that I believe in a life eternal, as promised to us by our Lord Jesus Christ.
Lord Summerisle says it's good that he has these beliefs and offers him a martyr's death.
That is good. For believing what you do, we confer upon you a martyr's death. You will not only have life eternal, but you will sit with the saints among the elect.
For Lord Summerisle, the perfect human sacrifice is an obedient Christian. A few points of interest in the film include the boat. Notice the eye, a Luciferian and Freemasonic symbol. And at the start of their pageantry, Lord Summerisle wears women's clothes to lead the march to the sacrifice. This is a ceremonial rite to celebrate the hermaphroditic union of the masculine and feminine, depicted as the Baphomet, the pagan and Gnostic idol, once illustrated by occultist Eliphas Levi, recognized by occultists and Freemasons the world over. I found the cake interesting. Sort of reminded me of the cadaver cakes used in this ritual. In one scene, Lord Summerisle mentions allowing oneself to be open to the influences.
One should always be open to the regenerative influences.
Which sounds a lot like opening your mind, your consciousness, to accept and enjoy these suggestions. Being open to the influence reminds me of this. Nobody brings high art aesthetic to a barbaric pagan death cult quite like writer and director Ari Aster in his 2019 film Midsommar. The film is about an exchange student who invites a group of anthropology students to visit his farming commune in Sweden to participate in their 9-day midsummer festival, only to find out later they were brought there to be sacrificed in a dramatic pagan ritual to appease their solar deity and goddess of fertility. The idea was conceived by corporate advertising and marketing firm Be Real Films, who commissioned Aster to write and direct the film. Be Real Films, with locations in Stockholm, Los Angeles, New York, Barcelona, and Berlin, proclaim a hip, earth-conscious, diverse collective of creatives, from designers, marketing experts, filmmakers, producers, and more. They claim to be a team of storytellers and technologists creating new ways to connect brands and audiences. They have established a robust global presence, film being only one division of the company, and have incorporated Hollywood into the fold. Be Real's area of focus and expertise is branded content and commercials, but with feature films, TV shows, and documentaries, they plan to utilize cross-discipline directors to create visual and digital media that makes an impactful mark on the world. Among their clientele is Nike, Google, Facebook, and Netflix. They do a number of projects for this chick, by the way. Sounds a lot like sophisticated corporate propaganda to me. Announced in 2017, Be Real revealed then upcoming socio-political feature films that were in the pipeline, including Midsommar. The premise for Midsommar was their idea, and they hired Aster to bring it to life. It was Aster's 2018 film Hereditary, a spiritually foul psychological horror that put him on the map for general audiences. Hereditary is about a woman named Annie who comes to realize that her recently deceased mother, a pagan witch, who along with her coven conjured an ancient demon which they intended to possess Annie's son. This dominion or king demon is actually found in the Keys of Solomon, named Payman, and one known to be very obedient to Lucifer. The film includes generational witchcraft, conjuring of demons, seances and necromancy, and demon possession of their own grandchildren in order to gain riches and worldly favor. In an interview about Midsommar with The Hollywood Reporter, Astor was asked which artists influenced him for tone, color, and story for the film. There were a lot of artists who I was thinking about when we were working on the production design of this film, and many were theosophical artists just because I saw a lot of ties between theosophy and the world we were building here. František Kupka was one, Hilma of Klint was another. František Kupka was a painter and graphic artist from the Czech Republic and the pioneer of abstract and cubism art movements that emerged from their political ideology. Kupka found inspiration in theosophy and the occult and promoted a subjective, intuitive approach to art. Hilma of Klint was a Swedish artist and mystic whose paintings were among the first Western abstract art. She belonged to a group called The Five, a coven of women who would make contact with the high ascended masters, often by way of seances. Her paintings, which sometimes resembled diagrams, were a visual representation of these complex spiritual ideas. She was a Theosophist and also a Rosicrucian. Astor continues, quote, I mentioned Whitkin earlier. He's a photographer who's very married to the macabre and works a lot with real corpses. Sometimes actors pose as corpses, but very often he works with actual dead bodies. He marries the beautiful with the grotesque in a really striking way. End quote. Some points of interest in the film. The story begins with a traumatic event, the death of Danny's family, which later becomes the catalyst for her transformation into the hive mind of the cult. Astor cerebrally creates a clear divide between two distinct worlds. There are a number of symbols baked into the visuals, an undercurrent of narration in itself. The use of runes, a Proto-Germanic alphabet system dating from about the 2nd century AD. Runes were often used for divination and magic. Psychedelics are a prominent feature, creating an altered state of consciousness and the quote-unquote opening one to the influences.
What does it do?
It breaks down your defenses and opens you for the influence.
Sounds to me a lot like programming, powerful suggestion through derangement of the senses. As the guests enter the commune, they pass through a solar gate. The sun is a prominent presence in this story. The ultimate mixed message is to portray human behavior so dark, so satanic, in almost blinding sunlight, while wearing pretty white clothes. No dark, ominous robes with this group. One of the main features of their midsummer ritual procession is the Maypole dance. The Maypole, or Asherah pole, named for moon goddess Asherah, also known as Ashtoreth or Ishtar, was the name of the chief female deity worshipped in ancient Syria, Phoenicia, and Canaan, and a consort of sun god Baal. Worship of Asherah involved ritual prostitution, divination, and fortune-telling. The Lord God, through Moses, expressly forbade the worship of these deities. Just prior to the competition, the women are given a drink which looks to be a mixture of spring water, psychedelics, and human excrement. In the midst of the competition, the psychedelics take hold, and she appears to become possessed by their solar deity, which is then evidenced by her ability to speak and understand a foreign language. This, a blasphemous nod to Acts, chapter 2, verses 4 through 11, in which the apostles, on the day of Pentecost, were indwelt with the Holy Spirit, and as they spoke, the listeners, who scholars believe were numbered anywhere from 100,000 to 2.5 million, of devout Jews from every foreign nation on the earth, were able to understand in their own language. The curse of confusing languages at Babel, found in the book of Genesis, would not stop the spreading of the gospel to every nation on earth. The character of Christian in this story is contrived. It's like Captain Obvious that his character is used to portray false and unsavory notions of Christianity coming from a pagan perspective. Christian is portrayed as this lackluster, uncreative, unoriginal, self-absorbed, emotionally unavailable jerk who not only treats his girlfriend like an annoyance, but at one point in the story decides to steal his thesis idea from one of his fellow students. Of course, it's Christian who willingly mates with one of the members of the cult, bringing his offspring into their world. It's Christian who will wear the bear suit in the final human sacrifice, seated at the center of their pyramid-shaped temple. Remember, the bear represents ferocity, strength, and masculinity. Christianity, which for them represents the patriarchy and a stolen, obscene, weak cultural symbol that will burn as the ultimate sacrifice to, quote-unquote, purge their most unholy effects, meaning their strong emotions. And lastly, the frock the elder wears to honor the Baphomet, the hermaphroditic idol of pagans and Gnostics, just like Lord Summerisle in the original The Wicker Man. For the members of this cult community, the rituals are like games. Pele explains that it's a lot of costumes and pageantry.
Lots of pageantry and special ceremonies and dressing up.
That sounds fun.
It's like theater.
The rituals give the members purpose and meaning. To me, this is an example of the one-world religion that is being formed, which will serve global governance and provide devoted laborers for the industrial environmental agenda. It is a polar inversion of the promise of eternal life with the creator God of the Bible, to one that teaches that when you die, you become part of nature and the elements, to become one with the material world. And so nature and its maintenance becomes the primary focus of worship. If you think this is only happening in movies, remember the Gothard tunnel opening ceremony in Switzerland? This was an all-day pagan ritual presented to a special, hand-selected audience of dignitaries and ruling elite. Through a bizarre and theatrical series of interpretive dance and visual imagery, the story goes pretty much like this. A giant mechanical worm bores deep into the bowels of the underworld to the delight of a hybrid demonic angel and Lucifer, pagans, their goat and orchard gods, a variety of demons, and a collective of strangely detached worker drones working to their deaths as they open the gates of hell, all presented in front of the New World Order elite. Which brings me to the Burning Man Festival, a 9-day festival held every year, this year from August 26th through September 3rd. Burning Man was founded by artist and political activist Larry Harvey and a small group of anarchist artists from San Francisco. While Harvey insists he did not see the 1973 film The Wicker Man, which isn't the official instruction book for modern heathenry anyway, they most certainly adhere to its rites, rituals, and philosophy, and want to apply it to the modern world. In an interview with founder Larry Harvey and former 8-term Congressman Dennis Kucinich at the 2015 Global Leadership Conference, they discussed this very idea.
What it means to me is that I've seen now a physical representation of the potential for the creation of a new world. And if you can, I don't care what form you're talking about, if you can see new forms, if you have the ability to see a vision of a newer world, literally, then you know it's possible, it exists, somebody has created it. From that archetype, you are as an architect of a new world. I saw a confirmation, an affirmation, that maybe in my heart of hearts I've held and say, gee, I hope it's possible someday that we could do this. We need to take that energy, we need to take that creativity and take it into what should ultimately be the most creative of all sciences, and that is the science of human relations that produces our government. So,
and that's what politics is about, how do we live together?
Yeah, and so when I saw what was going on at Burning Man, I said, wait a minute, there's a new matrix being formed here. One must pay attention to it.
Burning Man has attracted a number of billionaires and celebrities, many of them from Silicon Valley and Hollywood. Elon Musk once said, Burning Man is Silicon Valley. However, their 9-day annual Utopian experiment has a myriad of problems. What they work tirelessly to keep under wraps is the absurdly high number of sexual assaults, incredibly high suicide rate among their workers and attendees, numerous labor disputes, serious injuries, and even death that takes place on the playa. Erich Fromm, German psychologist, humanist philosopher, and considered one of the most influential academic Marxist revisionists of the 20th century, In his book, You Shall Be as Gods, a radical interpretation of the Old Testament and its tradition, writes, both the sadistic and masochistic trends are caused by the inability of the isolated individual to stand alone and his need for a symbiotic relationship, some external authority over him, to overcome this aloneness. Fromm believed that man could transition from not taking the last logical step to give up God and to establish a concept of man as a being who is alone in the world, but who can feel at home in it if he achieves union with his fellow man and with nature. In the process of history, man gives birth to himself. He becomes what he potentially is, and he attains what the serpent, the symbol of wisdom and rebellion, promised, and what the patriarchal, jealous God of Adam did not wish, that man would become like God himself. Resurrecting ancient religions is about the attempt to blot out Christianity from mind and earth forever. It's a complete worldview transformation, a counterfeit reality, one where God is rendered essentially dead. Trying to rewind and reset the world to the time before Christ in the hopes to restructure humanity in the old way and apply it to modern culture using an eclectic mix of ancient occult traditions is an attempt to create a new world religion, one that worships nature, includes empty games and rituals that condition minds and ensure devoted laborers for the cause, and the ever-evolving elite class of man into human godlike status. Remember, Satan is the counterfeiter. He works to create a world system that appears like a utopia on earth, but is on a path to destruction. In his world, God is simply erased from the hearts and minds of humanity forever.